evening, everyone. Welcome to Inside Artesian Basketball here on WREP 15 Sports. I'm your host, Eric Meyer, joined as always by Artesian head basketball coach Kip Staggs. Got a lot going on this show today. We've got highlights from a couple of ball games. We're going to throw in a little chalk talk defensive segment coming up as well. We're going to try to test the capabilities here of our RTV2 students and following that and getting those things done. But up first, let's talk with the coach a little bit about their Mid-State Conference matchup. Traveled up to Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and first, that's just a great opportunity for your kids. You get a chance to go play on the same floor of NCAA championships, NCAA games, and the Pacers play.
Great experience for not just our players, but our youth program as well. And so prior to the game on Friday, we had some 5th and 6th graders play. We had a little bit over 30 young men that were playing on the Pacers court. And just a really neat experience for those young men and the coaches to get down on the floor, to have the bright lights on top of you. The court's 10 feet longer than normal, so that just makes it a lot of fun for the community. And then some of them got a chance to play at halftime of our game. So it just wasn't a Mid-State Conference game, but it was a great way for our program to come together. That evening we had a good crowd there as well, and unfortunately we came out a little bit short. But those are great experiences that we try to bring our young men, cheerleaders, school, when we can, and this became available to us and we took advantage of it.
Plainfield, the ball club, your opponent on Friday night. This is a Quakers ball club, and I don't know if the word would be surprise a little bit, but I think probably is a little bit of a surprise. They've had a JV team that's done well. That doesn't always equate when you get to the varsity level, but these are some kids that, like we talked about last week, they're starting to play well. They've got good team chemistry. They've got pretty good size, and they were able to get out to a pretty good lead over you guys and then end up with the victory.
Well, the first quarter made all the difference in the world. You know, they jumped out 25-9. They played faster than we did. They shot the ball extremely well, and we just could not recover from that deficit. And we made a little run at them in the second half, but they were a good ball club. Matter of fact, Sagarin came out, has them as #1 in the state in the last week. Our strength of schedule was 14th as it sits prior to our game yesterday. So we've played a really good schedule, and part of that schedule was Plainfield, as you mentioned. Nice ball club, much improved over a year ago, and team chemistry goes such a long way. They play well together, they share the ball, they don't care who gets the credit, and you saw some of those results when we played them.
Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the highlights from the contest on Friday night up there at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and right away you see the kids out there on the Pacers court. Pretty neat experience.
Yeah, you see Tyler getting to the basket there, and Tyler's played really well this part of the year, and you see us, we get down just way too much. They shot 67% for the game, and if we continue to allow people to score the ball at that higher rate, we're going to struggle all year. And when you don't get stops and don't score on the other end, it's a bad combination. That's really what we were in that first half against Plainfield. We did settle down a little bit. We finally found a routine, found a little bit of rhythm. There's Tyler on another drive. And Tyler's really improved his game, being able to get to the basket, shooting that three, and being able to play a little bit there around the basket and on the perimeter. And, you know, we could just continue to chip away. There's a nice post feed from Tyler into Noah for a nice bank shot. And, you know, here's a nice steal by Andy, and Andy's starting to have a few more minutes along the way. Here he goes coast to coast basically and scores the ball. And just really unfortunate. We just did not get off to a very good start, to say the least. Here's a steal by Damon. Kicks it over to Reed, who finishes with a little runner in the lane. As you see, we get it to 16. Then it gets back to 21, you see here in the third quarter. Chase Havlin, with a little post feed from Tyler, scores there. He's starting to see a few more minutes. He's starting to get his basketball legs. So I think you're going to see Chase continue to improve as the season wears on. And here's a nice play by Reed with the steal, and he gets the finish in the one. So, you know, we did some good things. It was just the first quarter was just so detrimental to the outcome that we just could not overcome it. There's Damon at the top of the key, being able to knock that three down. And Damon, Reed, and Tyler are three guys that consistently from the start of the year have shot the ball really well. And they have done a good job of being efficient offensively, scoring the ball, and at the same time, they've been in the gym more than anybody else. And so some of that pays off. Here's a little two-man game with Reed and Tyler pops out and knocks down the three. But, one thing that this event allowed us to do is that Tyler he won an academic award. And so the third quarter, they recognized Tyler for his 3.9 GPA and presented him a plaque. So part of this, there was a nice academic award that was received on the contest.
So you come away from this contest, what do you look at it? What do you take away from it? I know we talked a little bit before the show. You're really kind of trying to focus on what you guys do and those kind of things. So what do you try to take away from this game?
Well, one thing we took away is that, we just simply need to have some guys buy into what we're doing and the effort and practice, and we need to understand that you have to defend for 32 minutes. You have to commit to the defensive end and the rebounding. And that's just something it's probably as much mental as it is physical, and it's a way you go about practice. It's a way you go to work every day. And I think that with this young group or inexperienced group, it's just something they have got to start understanding. And so Saturday, for your takeaway, Saturday we met in the office and everybody saw the stat sheet, 4-game stat sheet. Here's your shooting percentages. Here's how many rebounds, not just a game, but per minute that you're pulling down. Here's the other team's shooting percentage. Here's our shooting percentage. Like in that Plainfield game, we shot 50%. And when you shoot 50%, you're going to be in most games. You're going to be competitive. But we let them shoot 67%. And for us to be competitive, since we don't have a lot of offensive firepower, we have got to do a better job on that defensive end. So schematically, we went back and we changed a couple things. We made we made an adjustment on the defensive end on the man-to-man things that we've been doing. And we just kind of put the proof out there to them and said, here's what we're seeing. This is what we know. This is not biased. This is not subjective. This is hard facts. Numbers don't lie. And this is where you're at. And like we were telling guys, you average 1 rebound every 3 minutes. Or you average 1 rebound every 10 minutes, and that's your productivity. And so it doesn't matter the number of rebounds per game you're getting, but what you're doing with the minutes that you have. And then we also looked at the points you score per shot that you take. And so if you're 1.2 and above on that, you are shooting and you're being really efficient with the number of shots that you take. But if you're at 0.7 or 0.8, that means either A, you're shooting bad shots, or the shots that you're taking are contested, or maybe you're just not a real good shooter right now. So you have to be more selective in your shot process. And so we looked at it offensively, defensively. We hope that it really opens up the eyes to our young men about what they can do or what they can't do, and some areas they need to improve in. But the first step that we have to do is we've got to make a stronger mental approach to the defensive end. And when we do that, then I think you'll start seeing more. You're going to start to see us improve as a team, at least on that end.
Wednesday night contest came up. It's an unusual night to have a game. Indiana Math and Science comes into the night. Martinsville, actually 3 different teams here in the gym, so it's kind of unique. Eminence was playing in a freshman game, and then Center Grove in a JV game, and then Math and Science in the varsity game. And you guys came out, really took care of business and got the win over Indiana Math and Science.
Yeah, I thought we came out and we asserted ourselves early. We kind of let them back in it a little bit there at the end of the second quarter, but we were still a 15-point leader at halftime. And then we really had a good third quarter. I thought our third quarter was probably as good as we've had in some time. We were just very, very active defensively. We tracked deflections. We're starting to have that conversation with them. In that contest, Reed had 7 deflections. Tyler had 4 or 5. So we're starting to look at some of those things. But offensively, we were very, very efficient. And we were able to move that lead up to almost 40 points in the midway of the fourth quarter. And we made some substitutions, trying to do a few things differently, but we come out with the win.
Martinsville with the big win over Indiana Math and Science. Let's take a look at some of the highlights. Lots of highlights from the John R. Wooden Gym on Wednesday night.
Well, here you see just a nice, easy flex cut, and Tyler's able to find Chase inside. and able to knock that down. Here's a little out-of-bounds play. Wesley gets the ball. Chase makes a nice cut to the basket and scores the ball. And as I mentioned earlier, I think you're going to start seeing Chase being a little bit more productive as he gets his legs underneath him. And, as we move through some of this, here's a nice post feed into Noah, who's able to finish. And we're able to, continue to add to that lead. I thought we missed a couple free throws and layups early in the contest, which would probably have had us up 10 to 12 earlier. Here's Andy with a nice little drive and a runner to score the ball. You see that we played a lot of guys. Here we trap coming out of the quarter break, and we're able to get a quick transition and a basket to Wesley. Here's Reed on a quick kick out to Elijah, and Elijah had good minutes for us. Really starting to be a little bit more comfortable around the basket and on the perimeter playing with the guys. There's another nice post feed. And that's an area that we think we've got to get better at. Even though you see a few of those post feeds, it's an area we felt like we can still get better at. Here's a Reed drive, and he finds Josh Ham, who got a couple minutes for us there in the second quarter, knocking down the easy basket. Wesley was able to get the rebound there, and instead of bringing the ball or passing it, he just brought up himself and it was able to make a play. Here's a little play on an not out of bounds, but off a free throw where we were able to get the ball back on a little cross action. They pressed us a little bit. We were able to pass it ahead to Josh Ham. You see us here in the second quarter. We had 9 assists in the first half, which we felt like was really good. And here's a nice backdoor pass from Wesley to Reed, and we're able to score there. In the third quarter, we kind of tried to slow some things down, work on an item or two. There's Andy with a nice drive and putting it in, and we continue to just kind of add to that lead. As I mentioned, we were just really efficient there in the third quarter, blew this game open, and really asserted ourselves. Craig Wessner, you see Craig's in the game there in the third quarter, and he gave us good quality minutes as a young junior that plays really hard and comes to practice every day. Here's Reed on a little 15-foot pull-up. Be able to knock that down. It was a good shot selection for him. Here's a kick out to Andy. Not able to score it, but he got his own rebound and put it back in. This lead continues to grow as they press us a little bit, and we're able to get the ball and get down to the floor and kick it over to Craig for a little 8-footer there, and you see we're up to 30 points there in the third. There was a really nice play by Andy. He gets a steal, he gets on the ground, loses it, gets it back, and then is able to secure the ball and pass it ahead. That play right there was a tough play by Tyler. He had to catch it. He had a bad pass to him. He was able to catch it, and then he was able to score the ball, and then we were able to move that out to another lead for us. So,
big win for you guys. You don't see Coach Staggs. He's actually up on the chalkboard, and big win for the Artesians. He's going to talk a little bit of defense now, so we're just going to kind of go over to him on the other camera and take a look and see as he draws up some stuff with defensively here today.
Well, first of all, you got a purple pen up here,
I know.
And that should be illegal.
It is.
In the entire building.
It is.
So we won't use the purple marker, but we'll use the black one here.
I use that for my bag kids.
I wouldn't even say it's good for those.
Here, toss it out here.
Yeah, let's
catch.
get rid of that
Right.
and not bring it back ever again. But we talk to our players a lot that there's four levels of being a defender. There's 4 defensive things, and the first thing you got to do is you've got to be able to guard the ball. You got to be able to guard the ball, and you got to be a one-on-one defender. And we think that's really, really important. You got to be a one-on-one. The second level is that you've got to be able to understand screen actions and how to get through them. Down screens, back screens, ball screens. You got to be able to handle that action. The third level defender is a help defender, a team defender. And team's probably more important than the help part. And so you've got to be able to be in the right spot. You've got to be able to be on the help side. And you've got to be able to be a team guy where you can help if your teammate gets beat. And the fourth level defender is a guy that knows what to do when everything breaks down. And so when things break down, such as A guy dribbles in, get beat, you got to rotate, they kick the ball out. When they kick the ball out, and all of a sudden you've got to be able to play in a scramble scenario. So we think these are 4 key items to being a good defensive team. And this is not different from any other year. This is just a way, an approach to look at it. And like we have some guys that are really good on the ball, but struggle in the break scenario when it breaks down in a scramble scenario. We've got some guys that can really handle ball screens well, but may or may not be able to handle a cross screen. We've got some guys that need to be better in the help side, okay, but are pretty good on the ball. So when we look at our guys or any team, we look at you as a defender in 4 different levels. Can you guard the ball? Can you keep people in front of you? Probably one of the hardest things to do in a game. Can you handle screen actions? Can you be trusted in that action? Are you a help defender? And then are you good when it all breaks down? And so those are 4 things that we look at on our team as we analyze our players. Now, one thing that I'd like to share with you real quick in lieu of this, or in light of it, is what you do or what we do schematically, let's just say on a simple down screen. So if you're looking at the court and you've got a down screen, so here's a player with the ball on the top. And let's just say here's the offense and there's the defense, offense and defense. And we tell our guys they need to be on the line and up the line. Very famous coach, Dick Bennett, his son is at Virginia now. Bobby Knight, it's a lot of that philosophy from years gone by. But on the line, up the line. So we ask our defensive players to be closer to the ball. And we think you have to be closer to the ball so that you're a better help defender. But once that ball is up here on the top and this offensive player decides to set a down screen, just a simple down screen, well, when that occurs, we've got to be able to get through that. And so a year ago, we made this a switch. We were able to switch that. We had a crew of young men that really communicated well. Our chemistry was good, cerebral enough where they could handle. But not every team can be a switching type team. So one of the things that we talk about on this down screen is that when the defender follows him down, he's jumped to the ball and this guy is coming up, we want this defender to go third man. And so what you essentially have is that you've got like a dance partner. And sometimes we don't dance really well. But when that defender comes down, so here comes the screen, and that defender jumps to the ball here, and that's a big key, and this guy jumps to the ball, and this guy's coming up to receive the pass, you actually have 3 guys passing. You got 1, 2, 3, and then 4. And we're going to go third man. We want to shoot this gap and get between the offense and defensive player. And when we get through that gap, then we're able to get through that screen without any problem. Now, while that's happening on this side, you should have probably 2 other defenders. So when you talk about those 4 levels, to guard the ball, to handle the screen, to handle the scramble action, we want to make sure that we have 5 guys on the ball side. And if we've got 5 guys in help side, ball side, then we really jam the paint. And I think back to last night and what we did. We felt like we had a team that we had to handle the ball, guard, keep the guy in front of us. But we did a much better job of having 5 people on the ball side. So, right there is just a quick schematic look at our defense, just very, very basic. There's other things that we'll do along those in this world to kind of help matchups and get us where we need to be. But third man through on down screens, 5 man on the ball side in the help side position, and then always learning how to play out of that.
So a little bit of a look here at the chalk. Coach Staggs will return back here, and so a good breakdown of what we like to do defensively. And that's just not the high school. That's something you guys really emphasize throughout the program.
Well, exactly. I mean, we think that our 7th and 8th graders are doing some of those things that are very similar. Our freshmen, we talk about third man through quite a bit. Now how do you handle a ball screen? There's about 5 or 6 different ways you handle a ball screen, and so we didn't get into that today. But we start that conversation, but we hope that carries over and translates a little bit. Everybody talks about what offense, and you want all your offense to be the same. Well, you do a little bit, but all that defensive information should be the same.
Good stuff. We'll kind of try to continue this. I think it went okay. I mean, we're pretty good transition between us outside of the little purple marker, right?
Well, we got that eliminated,
Yeah,
so
so
we got all the bad stuff out of the way, and we're good.
So the kids did a nice job of being able to transition back and forth. So we'll add that every week, a little chalk talk with Coach Staggs. You educate on basketball, learn a lot about what Martinsville likes to do and just basketball in general. Coach, we appreciate it. You've got a game coming up this weekend on Saturday at home against Eastern Green, and then on Tuesday as well against Indian Creek. Real quick before we go, let's talk about those two matchups that you got with Eastern Green and the Braves.
Well, Eastern Green's about 500 on the season, 2-2. We expect them to play extremely hard. Coach Neal has done a really good job down there for a number of years, and so we expect a good battle with them. And then Indian Creek, Coach Glenser's just really got his guys playing as hard as they ever have at Indian Creek, and they're 4-1 and really off to a good start. So again, nothing easy on our schedule, nothing to take for granted. We have to continue to grow, get better, improve as we progress through the season. And I think we're starting to see some of this progress. Sometimes in losses, you get better, you just don't see it as easily. And so even in wins, sometimes the same way. But we'll continue that process as we move forward.
All right, Coach, we appreciate it. Thanks for the help this week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Artesian head coach Kip Staggs here inside Artesian basketball. Martinsville coming up, like we said, Saturday, Eastern Green at home, and then also at home on Tuesday against the Indian Creek Braves. As always, I'd like to thank the head coach for coming in for Kip Staggs, along with the RTV2 class. Had a little bit more work this time of producing it. I'm Eric Meyer. We'll see you again next time inside Artesian basketball.